Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in. We have a bit of a breakage here, which is the gear hanger, also known as the mech hanger, which has snapped completely in half, and its purpose, well, it's basically fulfilled its purpose. The idea is that you attach your derailleur, the thing that shifts the gears back and forth on the rear cassette or freewheel. It holds that to the frame of the bike, but you don't really want your derailleur to break if it happens to get caught on a bump or a rock, or possibly in this case I need to check if it's got caught in the spokes and as the wheel has gone round it's taken the derailleur with it. What you want is for this to snap, because it's a softer pliable metal. It should give before the derailleur, and of course it's much cheaper to replace than the derailleur itself. So I'm guessing the reason it's happened is because the derailleur has got caught in the spokes, although the customer can't remember. And one of the key indicators of that, I appreciate it's a bit out of focus, is because the chain itself has come apart just here. This isn't the master link, which is a quick release part of the chain often. This is actually where the chain itself is almost coming out. You can see there the other side is already hanging loose. So I would imagine that is what's happened. The derailleur's got caught in the spokes and taken the chain with it. So not only are we going to be replacing the gear or the mech hanger, we're also going to be replacing the chain as well, because it's clearly been dented and squiffed and knackered. I'm not sure squiff's a word, but it is now. So I'm going to remove the master link here using a chain separator tool. And then we'll get the wheel off, we'll get the mech hanger off, and then we'll be ready to put new chain and mech hanger on. But at the same time, it means we can just remove the cable for the derailleur at the moment, and just get the derailleur off as well, and just check that's okay. Okay, let's get to work. Okay, so we're going to be just breaking that master link just there, and what that does is it just separates the chain. You may not have this on your bike. You would need to then instead use a chain break tool, a video of which is on my channel showing you how to do that. Anyway, these two parts, they're not going to be kept, so we can bung those. And of course now I can thread the chain out and from around the derailleur and just remove this entirely. Now that the chain's off, I can show you more clearly. This isn't a master link, a quick release part of the chain. This is a regular link like one of these, but the force of, I'm guessing, the derailleur getting caught in the spokes has forced this apart. So yeah, this chain is absolutely not reusable. You can't just cut here and here and join, because it'll be the wrong length. This is unfortunately going to be going in the bin. So we're going to replace this with a whole new chain. It really is lending me to think that the derailleur arm did get indeed caught in the spokes, and as the wheel went round, it whipped the derailleur arm round and therefore broke this part. So I think possibly the derailleur could be damaged, but let's hope not. Let's prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So we're going to get the wheel off now completely. Fortunately, this is a quick release system, so we can just whip the lever up, take the wheel off. If you've got bolts, they're almost certainly going to be 15mm bolts, in which case you have to loosen them. Don't remove them entirely on both sides and pull the wheel down. If you have not disc brakes, then your tyre is going to be probably too bulbous to fit beyond your rim brakes, if they are rim brakes. But because these ones here are disc brakes, it's going to be very easy, because they will just slot, the wheel rather will just slot straight down and out. So we're going to do that next. With the wheel off now, it's a simple job of banging in a almost certainly 5mm hex key or Allen key wrench, and just removing the bolt part this side. But there's also a retaining nut on the other side, and then the gear hanger falls to the floor as if by magic. Okay, so there's the broken part of the gear hanger. The rest of it is still attached to the derailleur. I'm going to remove that again just by using a 5mm this 5mm wrench, and I'm going to put the two pieces together and compare it against the replacement gear hanger, because it would be easy, wouldn't it, if all gear hangers were the same and universal for every bike, but that's not the case. I've got the right one, I know I have, but I'm going to put them side by side and then you can see how to size them up. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to show you this. So this is the part of the derailleur that would attach to the gear hanger, but normally the gear hanger would be about here when you would attach it. So because it's snapped, we're going to have to undo it by hand. It's going to be quite tough to do actually, because there's no resistance now to undo it. So goodness me, that's really difficult. There we go, it's starting to free up now. So that should start removing soon, and I really hope that this derailleur is not knackered, just for the customer, because I hate throwing things away unnecessarily. I'm a fixer, not a fitter, and it's just a shame if you've got to replace stuff because of just an innocuous accident. Okay, so the bolt for the derailleur stays in the derailleur. We're going to just lift that, hang that down for now, and it's just hanging on the end of this. But it means I've got the other part of the gear hanger. So I'm going to plonk this next to the next one, next to the other part rather, and then we'll see how the other part fares to it. Well, here are the two parts side by side. It's obvious that it's an exact match. Even with the bent part there, you can see what it should be. So this is going to go on in exactly the same way, a reversal of how the first one was removed. And then we can start getting things ready to go back on. So we'll put this back on. We'll also attach the wheel again to the bike, and then we'll have a look at that derailleur. Again, for the sake of argument, I may as well show you. There are different ways, of course, that you can put the gear hanger on, but it will be obvious to you which way round because it just fits snugly into the space. Now, I said earlier on that unfortunately gear hangers aren't universal. You can sometimes get away with one that's almost the same, but I would recommend you go online, and there's a wealth of information telling you which gear hangers work for which bike. Anyway, you have two other parts here, just in my nice, clean, shiny hand. You're going to put the nut side, the retainer, on the opposite side of the frame. You're going to put the mech hanger, the gear hanger, up to that. So hopefully you can see through here. And then this part here just goes into place. Make sure you don't cross thread. It'll be really obvious if you do, because these two parts really do slide nicely into each other. Now, there is a bit of a groove on this nut on the opposite side to the camera, where you can hold it a bit like a flathead screwdriver, a bit wider than that, to keep it in place while you do this up. I've never needed to do that. I find that as you screw this bolt in, it just bites into the opposite side, and that's what it's gone and done there. Now's a good time to look down the length of the frame, looking this way, to make sure the frame itself isn't bent inwards, isn't damaged, and to make sure it's a symmetrical finish, flush and parallel with this side. I'm not going to move the camera around because space isn't the best, but I can tell you that things are nice and true and running well. Should there be an issue when you eventually hang your derailleur again, it'll be really obvious to you because the hanger arm will look quite out of true. But anyway, once we've got everything on, I can show you that and we'll be in business. Okay, so the next thing to do for me is I'm going to undo this retainer bolt here for the cable. I'll probably end up replacing the cable completely anyway, but for the sake of argument, we're going to pop this 5mm wrench in here. You'll see that this retainer will need to come off. That stops the cable fraying, but it just means we can get the cable out. There we go. So that's now going to be coming out, but in order for us to remove the derailleur entirely, this part needs to slide out. Do you see what I mean? So that part there is getting caught, so hopefully it will just come off from my fingers, and I can just pop a new one in a second. No, it's not coming off. Cable cutters save the day. So I'm going to go right up close to the end cap so we don't lose any cable. And then now this can come through. I know it's not great on the camera. So the cable's freed and just hanging loose inside here. Having a look here, you can see there's rust and just a fair bit of oxidation just down here. I know it's a bit out of focus, so I'm probably going to replace the cable anyway. But I'm just showing you the point in case you don't have the luxury of being able to replace the cable just yet. We can now inspect this. I'm going to get this over to the table and we're going to have a good look at it, but hopefully it will be good enough that we can just chuck it back on here. But let's inspect it quickly. So everything looks to be as it should. There's a really strong spring on here. If you look at that, that's what you want on a derailleur anyway. Looking down the straightness of the arm, there's a slight degree of bending out on this part here. I would imagine that's the part that got caught in the spokes. These two bits here really should be touching each other. Hopefully you can see it on camera. There we go, there's the gap. So really they should be closer together. It's not a deal breaker, but if we turn it around here, you will see that the result of this part bending out means it's then bending in just here. And it's actually, hopefully you can see it's on the camera. There we go. It's just bending inside the jockey or the pulley wheel there. So if we are going to salvage this and keep this going, and that is the only issue, we just need to bend that out a little bit. To be honest, we can probably do that with a screwdriver. We just need to be careful that as we prise it out, it is soft metal, but that we don't damage the plastic of this wheel. But I can't actually see any other issues other than, yeah, you can see it quite clearly on the camera here, it's bending in. If I was to move this part inwards, that may well bend this part outwards. Not completely sure, but let's just do it live on the camera and see. So I'm just going to put this ply on here and just give these a squeeze. And I want this part to move and this part not to. But let's see what happens, because if one starts bending as well, yeah, it's going, but it's not really releasing. What I'm going to do now then is I'm going to get these long nose pliers and just put it on the edge of here, and you can see how much it's bent in just there. I'm just going to see if I can bend it out a bit. Yeah, it's going. I might possibly remove this pulley wheel, this jockey wheel, if it doesn't come out very easily. But it's just, yeah, it's not going very well. Okay, not a big deal. We're going to remove this part, take this out completely, and then I can manhandle that a bit more and get some more purchase on it. Now, when you remove this bolt, there aren't many parts to the wheel, but just make sure they don't roll under the table. You've got this bolt, you haven't got a nut on the other side, it just screws into a threaded part of the metal. As it happens, the bit of the metal that's bent in, but you do have a cap on either side holding inside a kind of bearing system. So make sure you don't lose that and one on the other side, and indeed kind of the barrel, the barrel bearing on the inside. And now we can see that bendage. There we go. So that needs to be true with the metal here. So if I get this on here, oh, that's much better. And then I can just hopefully manipulate it outwards a little bit. Let's see how we go. Oh, that's looking better already. Good. Give it another bit of a bend. There we go. That's much better purchase. Yeah, I think that's passable. In terms of the gappage there, oh wow, look, it's already come right down already. So yeah, I think we've solved the problem. So things need to go back on the way they were. Oops. And this shows how fiddly things can be. So there we go. I'm going to put this down like that. About there. And then we're going to close this in. Matt, you've done a dog's dinner with this, mate, I think. That's it. Put that in there. Hopefully it's gone through the other cap on the other side. I think so. Hopefully also it's in focus for you guys. I'm going to do this back up. Yeah, I can feel the end of the bolt coming through. Tighten it back up. There we go. Check it's moving freely. It is. Happy days. And there's no more touching. So in fact it could possibly come out a little bit more, but it's done the job. It's done the job, so we are in business, which is great news. I don't think there is any other issue with this. Oh, yeah, there is. Found it. So this is your B screw, and that adjusts. Well, I've got a whole video explaining how the B screw works. It basically enables less sloppy gear change. But as you can see there, that screw, oh my gosh, is really bent. As it happens, the retainer for it, where it threads through, isn't. So I might actually have a spare B screw lying around somewhere. But I actually must confess, if that is unaffected, as in if this hasn't come out or gone in at all, which I can't see why I would have done, the B screw will be at the right setting, because where it comes out here, it's unbent. So we might be okay. This is where it will touch a part of the gear hanger just here. So yeah, it's all leading to this getting stuck in the spokes, and the force just caused everything to break. I'm talking too much. Let me put it back on the bike and we'll see how we go. So now it's time to attach the derailleur to the hanger. Again, this bent part, I don't think is going to cause a problem, because it's this part that's come through the other side of the screw, other side of the retainer for the screw, that makes contact with the gear hanger. Anyway, we're going to flip this round. But I also wanted to show you how you reattach the derailleur. You want this to fall above this stop point. If you were to attach the derailleur in the way that it would traditionally hang, which is like that, turning it around, you will see that this will fall underneath that stop point. So you can't attach the derailleur in the way that it looks when it's on a bike. You need to attach it up here so that that screw I just mentioned is above its stop point. Bash the camera, forgive me. So I'm attaching it now. And that stop point, that B screw, is above the stop point of the mech hanger. So now this should come down and free itself like that. You've got that movement there, but you can see the B screw is preventing the overall part of the derailleur from moving. It can lift up, but that stop point, you can hopefully hear the click. There, that's the B screw doing its job. So that's holding everything where it should and enabling the spring action to come back again. That's what the B screw's purpose is. So again, although it's bent here, I don't think it's actually causing a problem, and therefore the customer, well, we've saved a day for them in the sense that they probably don't need to get a new derailleur. Before we attach the chain, what I'm going to do is put the wheel back on now as well. Again, it's only a quick release system, so nice and easy for us. And then we'll get a new chain on and we'll go from there. Now that the wheel's on, I will just say you must make sure that the wheel is located squarely in the frame, because if it's slightly skew-if, then when it comes to aligning the derailleur to the freewheel or the cassette, you're going to have a whole heap of problems. And one of the easiest ways to do that is just, if I take the camera off, I can show you, is just make sure that there's an equal distance from this side to here, and conversely, or similarly, this side to here. I know we're a little bit out of focus, but hopefully that makes sense. And if you're looking down the very middle of the tyre, it will align perfectly here with the mudguard hole just here. So we know that we're perfectly in alignment. We can crack on now with the rest of the construction. Now I've had to size up the old chain here to the new one, which wasn't a terribly difficult process, but two things to bear in mind. The first is you need to make sure that you are putting both side by side and then running the length of the chains together, much like I'm doing here, to make sure that you have exactly the right length. What manufacturers do, understandably, is they don't sell a chain per bike, because there are so many different lengths you could choose from depending on the number of gears you have and of course the size of the frame. So what they do is they tend to make a generic size, typically 114, sometimes 116, which it is in this case, all the way through to much longer chains, so that you can then cut the chain to length. So you will need a chain breaker tool, but what you need to do is make sure that your chain is the right length. Now, the customer has asked for a cheaper chain to be put on, which means it hasn't got a master link. So when it comes to the master link, if you're replacing a master link chain with a cheaper pre-installed rivet, I would advise not doing that, but there we go. You need to allow one extra link length because you won't have that master link. So you need to imagine, this is the old chain here, that the master link would have added one more length. So here we go, we have female to female here, as in it goes inside the wider male links, and all the way through to the other end. You have to take my word for it, but they've been sized up. Bearing in mind, of course, you've got the breakage part here we have to be mindful of, and then all the way through to the very end. And there's that extra length I spoke about just there. So taking us back again to the beginning that I just showed you, that then tells us what our length is. So I've sized up the chain length. You have to trust me on that. This is where a chain break tool comes in. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to remove entirely the rivet here. The reason for that is because we already have the rivet on this side to be pushed through. You can see this is on the male version. So we need to be cutting through to exposing just a female, which again married up entirely with the length of the original chain. So again, this is going to be, you push the rivet all the way through, but if you're a bit cute about it, you can do it where you don't push the rivet entirely off the spare part you're going to be removing. There we go. So just in case we've made a mistake and we've cut it too short, we can always add this afterwards. So this is now obsolete, and hopefully I'm in focus enough that you can see how these two parts will join together. So we're now going to thread the chain onto the bike and attach it with the chain breaker, which is also the chain unbreaker. Chain unbreaker, seriously. Okay, the chain is ready to go back on. I've zoomed out, as you can see. This part here with the rivet on doesn't particularly like going around the derailleur here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this side. I know we might be a little bit out of focus. We're going to pop it through the front derailleur, make sure it goes through, and we're going to leave it dangling down here somewhere. And then the other side can be threaded through nicely. Now, often it's sensible to come this way, but maybe this will fit through the other way as well. Let's just see. There we go, gone through. So we're just going to leave that down. Sometimes gravity takes over and pulls the whole lot through, which could be really annoying. We're then going to go and do an S shape, which I've shown in videos before, but you can never see it too much. We're going to go round, under, and round. But there's a real key thing you need to be part of. Do you remember those parts of the chain that were of the derailleur that was separated earlier on? Make sure that your chain goes under there. And there's another part which is just here, this little bit of metal jutting out. Make sure the chain goes inside and not round. You will naturally want it to go this way, but that's not the case. It's a guide and the chain must come inside this little groove. Okay, so we've gone round. That's the first part of our S. We can perhaps move the chain down a little bit. Then we're going to go over this wheel here. There we go, the first of the two. This is the second. And then we're going to come up, as I said, making sure we're this side of this stopper, and then we're going to go around here. But of course you can pull your derailleur arm down, which is really helpful, and hopefully gravity will help us a little bit in this case. There we go, and there we go. So it's moving nicely. You can see that it's pulling itself round through. Now, you need to find a way to hold the two ends of the chain together because they're under extreme tension from the natural spring of the derailleur arm here. So it's going to be fighting against you the whole time. Now, what you could do is spend thousands, maybe not thousands, on some form of retention device. For me, it's a bit of bent wire. You can even use a wire coat hanger. But this part here just holds the two together. Well, there we go. You can have some freedom to move things. I appreciate we're a bit out of focus. Let's just pop that in place and then we can, there we go. Now you get your chain breaker slash unbreaker, and making sure that the rivet here is absolutely over, or the pin if you like, is absolutely over the female link rather, that's slotting in. You can make sure, there we go, we can push one through the other, and you can see the pin moving in nicely. There shouldn't be any resistance while you do this, and there might be a little bit of resistance as it pushes through the outer part on the other side, and you just keep pushing until there's an even load between the two, an even gap. So there's an even gap this side and this side. Take the tension off, remove this. Now these two may not move ever so freely at times. This one actually is moving freely, but just sometimes when you push a new pin through, there's a little bit of resistance. If that's the case, you can get yourself a screwdriver and just put a screwdriver through the gap just here and bend backwards and forwards, and that will just bend the metal out slightly. But we've got no resistance there at all. So we're going to come back out and we're going to see things in business. So there we are. The chain is on. Things are moving well. There's movement here from the derailleur and indeed the freewheel, the cassette, and of course it's driving the wheel. So for me, I can't see there being a particular problem right now. We just got to make sure this derailleur is aligned, which would rule out what I think was the reason why the derailleur got caught in the first place. So I'll talk you through that. But the first thing we're going to do is rethread this cable. But because the cable was rusted, for the sake of a few more minutes on the video, I'm going to put a new cable in. So, hey, I'll show you how to do that as well. Bonus footage. If you don't want to know about that, then just skip to a later part of the video. I've just popped a bit of bungee cord around the wheel to the frame just to make sure the handlebars don't move around too much. I've shown you this video before, folks. This is the EF series of V-brake gear and brake combined changer. So you would have seen this before in the videos, but I'm just going to show you how to access and remove the old cable. These screws don't need to be removed entirely from this top body, and they should stay in, he says, famous last words. Nearly there. There we go. So that's off. We can move this and the screws safely to one side. And if you bring the gears down to the lowest point, which probably I should have done before, you will see the end of the cable just here. As I show in all my videos, I don't like to pull all the old cable through on the way out, because any crap, corrosion, anything like that stuck on the silver part of the cable is just going to get pulled through. I know we're out of focus, but down here, I'm just going to cut the cable where it's about to go into the black outer cable coming up here. So that means now when I pull this through, I'm not going to be pulling loads of stuff through with it. So there we go. Just get a pick, screwdriver perhaps, and we're just going to pull the cable free from its stop point. There we go. Now this indicator just come out, not a problem at all, just don't worry about that in a minute. So we can pull the cable out. Putting a new cable in is a piece of cake. It just goes straight in through the retaining hole just down here and then through this outer cable. But because there was a degree of rust and oxidation, I'm just going to pop a couple of drops of oil. Again, this might be a bit out of focus for you. Doesn't really matter. A couple of drops of oil, and that will just help to lubricate and weatherproof your new cable just a little bit. There you go. Go through to the other side. Then you can get the outer cable that you had a moment ago and just pop it into the end. Back in it goes, and then you can just push the cable all the way through. There may be a small degree of resistance when you get to the exit of this black outer cable down at the frame where I cut it earlier on. Shouldn't be a big problem. Okay, making its way down. And I don't know if you've seen, but off camera it's already been coming through, so we can pull it all the way through, and your work here isn't quite done. You can see that it hasn't quite clicked into place. Give it a pull. There we go, and there it is in place. And that stopper, I don't know if you can see very easily, but there's a plastic stopper just here. Sometimes they perish and break, but what they're doing is preventing this cable from coming back out again. Now this selector, the selector comes out really easily. It's just an indicator of what you've chosen. It doesn't actually serve any purpose other than identifying to you what gear you're in. But if you just click up a gear, so you're going into 6 rather than 7, it just holds it in that groove a little bit better. Because of that stop point, you know the cable's not going to come out now. So ordinarily, I wouldn't put a cap back on just yet. But for these particular types of shifter, actually there's no problem at all. So we're just going to locate the holes. These should screw in really easily. So up it goes. And in that goes. Right, we're done at the shifter end. It's now a case of threading the cable through, down the frame, through all the gripe stop points, underneath the bottom bracket, which is down there by the front chain ring, and to the rear derailleur. Okay, so the cable is now threaded through. One thing you need to do now is to make sure your gear shifter is shifted back to the highest number. So it means the cable is going to be at its maximum stretch. Do you remember earlier on we backed off the gear so that the indicator wouldn't pop out of its housing? You now need to click that back to make sure it's in place. What you need to do now is to make sure this bound adjuster is tightened all the way in, righty-tighty. Once it's all the way in, you now need to back off, I would recommend 2 full turns. So if you make a note of this part here, that's going to be ish 1 full turn and another. This will help you to do some fine adjustments to calibrate the derailleur to the freewheel and the cassette up here. What you need to do now is to make sure the cable fits inside this grip point, and then we're going to tighten everything up. One trick for you is if you just put some tension onto the derailleur like this and essentially push the derailleur arm that away, it will take out a degree of slack which is going to be inevitable while tightening up, and it should just about have the derailleur in the perfect spot without much more adjustment needed. It's a bit of, you do it by feel, it's a bit of experience, but trust me when I say, although it looks a bit amateurish, it absolutely works a treat. So we're going to put some tension with the thumb. We're going to get the cable and put it through the stop point, the grip point. Index finger, I'm going to hold it in place. And then with my free hand, I'm going to tighten up the bolt, making sure that it has gripped the cable just there. And I know it's clinking and clonking, don't worry about that. We're just going to do it up well without chewing it up. There we go. That's fairly tight, but not so tight that it will screw up the cable if we have to make adjustment. Now, if all's going well, this should be just fine. If not, we've now got some adjustments we can do here. Let's see if there's any clicking and clonking. Well, none at the moment. There's a bit from the front, but that's fine because we can adjust the front a bit later on. Right now we're on the rear, aren't we? So let's just stop that again. Well, it seems to be working well. Again, ignore the front scraping for now. And then we're going to shift into 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2. Now I'm going to be careful going up to 1, because if you remember, my hypothesis for the breakage in the first place was that this went too far and got caught in the spokes. So when I go to 1, I'm going to do it cautiously, otherwise the same problem might happen again. Right, there we are in 1. I'm now going to push the shifter some more and see if there's any movement, additional movement. Well, there actually isn't. So whatever caused it, maybe a dent or a bash, or maybe the derailleur itself got bent, this arm, that's possibly what caused the reason why I got caught in the spokes. But looking down the length of the bike, let's bring it down so you can see as well. Just going to back off a bit. I do hope this is in focus for you guys. I see that as being completely true there. So I can't see a reason why that would have got caught and broken in the first place. Unfortunately, the customer is his teenage son. He can't remember exactly what happened. He swears blind he didn't go on the jumps down the local bike track because this isn't a jump bike. Who knows, maybe that is what he did. But yeah, we've got to cut the cable here, but I can't see any issue at all. Let's shift back down. So to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the magic 8. There we go. Well, that is all done. Now, if things had been a little bit out of alignment one way or the other, then we could have used the barrel adjuster. And if we really had to, we could have started from scratch with this point here. But what I've just showed you kind of proves that actually you've got enough give with a derailleur arm to just do it by feel and use this at the last moment. Sometimes you have one of these barrel adjusters up at the shifter end as well, but we don't have one on this bike. And you remember that bent B screw from earlier on? Well, it doesn't seem to be impacting the performance at all. So we've saved him probably 40 quid with labour getting one of these fitted. So he will be happy. I'm happy because it's all working well. And hopefully you're happy because you've seen how to replace a broken gear hanger and also have bonus footage to replace and fit a new chain, to make sure the derailleur is working, fit a new cable and get the bike ready for more riding. And we are job done. If this was a really long, boring video, I'm so sorry. But if you're watching up until now, it's because it's been helpful for you, in which case, mission accomplished. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Remember to like, please subscribe. It makes it all worthwhile for me. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.